So there's the top league, and then below that, there's a kind of north-south split, a bit like the conferences. There's a handful of teams that are linked to universities. There are a handful that are linked to clubs. So like Chelsea have a futsal team that play, for example. York did, Cambridge do. Some are kind of more closely linked to the clubs than others, but it is definitely something that's growing quickly. I'm seeing a lot of the pro football clubs start to use futsal a lot more, even as just a development tool. So like all their academy players will do a futsal session every week. So it's good to see that it's growing, but yeah, it's a real mixed bag out there.
From Coordinate Sports, it's The Drive Phase, a show about sports founders, leaders and experts and the stories behind their business journeys. Our guest this episode is Charlie Hyman, founder and CEO of Bloomsbury Football. Charlie is a London-born entrepreneur who founded Bloomsbury Football to provide professional, quality football coaching in the heart of the city. Having opened less than 5 years ago, the organisation has gone from strength to strength, using London's often expensive facilities to provide football training to children of all socio-economic backgrounds. Charlie is also in the current cohort of sports industry next-gen leaders 30 under 30, and along with his coaches are now looking forward to expanding the business further with more partnerships and programs in the near future. Enjoy the show. Okay, so I'm delighted to welcome Charlie Hyman, founder and CEO of Bloomsbury Football, providing professional coaching, quality football coaching in the heart of London, working with over 17,000 children per year. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on.
Yeah, it's good to chat to you. I know we were talking just then before we started, just around some challenges around the pandemic, as they're calling it at the moment. But what we're going to do is start off as you usually do and get into kind of your background, let listeners know a bit more about you. Really excited to get into what you're doing at the moment. But if we give a bit of context and go back to your earliest memories around sport, football, PE, could I take you back there not so long ago?
You can. Yeah, I love football. Young, obviously played loads, both at school, out of school, with my friends. I definitely never played at a real high level or anywhere near sort of for in a professional academy. So there's no backstory that's, I was going to play for Arsenal and
could have made
it. Hurt my knee and then never made it. No, I was never anywhere near that. So yeah, probably the best I got was playing on a Sunday for my grassroots team or playing for the school A team. I guess when I was 16, I think it was, at school there was Duke of Edinburgh scheme, which was volunteering led, and you had to do, I think, some number of hours basically. And that led me to getting involved, helping out my younger brother's football team, who was 10 at the time. That ended up going along on weekends and basically helping out. The lead coach there at the time worked for Fulham. And so I was there kind of learning from him, watching him run these sessions, and just really enjoyed being involved. That summer, I got some work experience through him at Fulham. I basically followed him around all of his sessions for about a month, which took me all around South London, went into primary schools, pupil referral units. We did disability, sort of Down syndrome football sessions, everything up to like their advanced centre, which was based at Motspur Park, which is Fulham's training ground. And it was amazing. Just made me really enjoy coaching even more.
Give you that coaching book then.
Yeah, and kind of opened my eyes to the amazing impact that football can have on young people, their lives and the community. So I went and did my level 2 coaching badge straight away, because I've done quite a lot of coaching. I think at that stage you could go straight into level 2. You didn't have to do a level 1 first. Got my level 2 and then basically started getting paid as a sessional coach for Fulham. I'd head down after school and basically coach like their advanced centre on a Friday evening at the training ground, and then do holiday courses when I was off school in the holidays.
Nice. So just looking back, I guess looking at it as like children's perspective, what was when you were at school, and obviously born and raised in London, is it central London, South London?
Yeah, Camden.
I'm born and raised Camden, so central London, going to school. What was it like? I mean, obviously you love football. Was that from you got that from your family? Was it like football mad family, sports mad family? Was it more maybe a teacher or something like that was really getting into it?
Good question. I wouldn't say football mad family. Definitely sports fans, but not football through and through. I guess probably playing at school, playing at break times, playing with friends. I was definitely always quite sporty.
Do you remember your coaches back then? Do you have anyone influential at primary school, secondary school, like a teacher, or just like you're talking about there with your with the Fulham connection? Did you have anyone coming into your sessions at that time? Was that kind of something that was maybe...
Yeah, we did. There were definitely coaches that I remember who I really liked, and obviously others that I didn't like so much. I think when you're at school and you have a sports coach, often that person may not be a football coach. It'd be like rugby could be their thing, or cricket, or hockey, or whatever. So I remember the coaches who were football through and through, and they were obviously the ones that inspired me. And the PE sessions that you turn up to, which aren't football, are always disappointing when all you want to do is play football. So I definitely remember those guys who were really football specific. But yeah, no, I don't think there was like a particular individual. It was just the enjoyment of playing with friends in and out of school. I used to literally finish school every day and go to the park and basically play football till it got dark, and just loved it, really.
Perfect. Yeah, fast forward back to the Fulham days and that work experience you're doing there. That was in, guessing, a variety, like you said, a variety of settings. And was that all kind of through the foundation and kind of, I guess, funded? So were people paying to come to those sessions, or was it just pop up in the community
Yeah,
and deliver?
it was all Fulham Foundation. I mean, it was a mix. Obviously, they get funding from the Premier League that helps them run. It could be kicks programs or run in primary schools. Some of the primary schools will pay them to provide coaches to run sport for them. The holiday programs were paid for by the children that attended. So a real mixed model. Obviously, they needed to raise revenue from people paying in order to be able to run all the programs to top up the kind of funding they got from the club grants and the Premier League. But yeah, a real mix. It was a brilliant experience. Just I'd hardly been around South London, to be fair, at that age. So it was also just seeing different schools, different pitches, and all the different programs that Fulham ran.
So next step from there was, so you're still in school at this point, right? Didn't you kind of sixth form side
Yeah,
age, is that right? Where did you go on from there? Did you go to university, or was you straight into the coaching life?
I did. Yeah. So I basically finished up school and decided that I wanted to keep my options open. So most people probably would expect that I went off and did like sports coaching or sports science or something like that. But I did human geography at Nottingham. So probably not expected, but I guess it married up my interest in people and communities and
Yeah, this is me being,
understanding.
I guess this is
Yeah.
me being curious. So human geography, we're talking like demographics, social.
Yeah, people, urbanization, city, yeah, all that sort of stuff. So it was linked in a way, and I
It
knew
does, yeah,
that.
it does fit together, doesn't it, in terms of what
Yeah,
you're doing at the
definitely.
moment.
I kind of knew that I could do that course, but also keep up my football on the side, like do my coaching badges. Whilst I was at uni in Nottingham, I went along and like watched Nottingham Forest train and their academy and coached the local grassroots team. So I kept myself really involved in the football side of things, whilst also, I guess, keep my options open so that if I got to 25 and decided I didn't want to work in football anymore, I had somewhere else to go and something to fall back on. But yeah, I wouldn't say I loved the course. I didn't engage with it that much. I think all the way through, I still knew that I wanted to work in football.
Football's a passion, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you said in terms of your sporting ability level, football ability level, you've been quite modest, but is this where futsal comes into the picture at university, or is this
It is,
before?
yeah. So I guess with 11 aside, I've never been athletic enough to really make an impact on games and play at a high level. But I'd always been one of the better players technically, especially in sort of small-sided environments of playing in the school sports hall, the playground, even the drills when we went to do 11 aside training. Like the possession exercise in the warm-up, that was my best performance of the day. Once the match started, I looked very average, but I used to love the like 4v4 possession at the start. Anyway, so yeah, when I got to uni, it was like, right, here's the football trials. Oh, and there's also futsal trials. So I actually ended up thinking, oh, I'll try them both out, see what happens. Went along to both. I think I got offered to play like in the fourth team for the uni, and I was like, okay. And went along to futsal and just absolutely loved it. Even the trials, basically five-a-side in the sports hall, which was what I loved. And so yeah, I decided to do futsal. The great thing with uni is that you're almost playing kind of as a professional athlete in that you're training 4 or 5 times a week. You've got strength and conditioning sessions. Facilities are amazing. So you can pick up something and get better at it very, very quickly. So yeah, coming in with a good technical base and then learning the movements wasn't too difficult.
So the journey in futsal, obviously, I know, as I said, being modest, you've taken it to like international level. What's the journey like for that then? So obviously university, futsal's still a niche opportunity in the UK. How did that look then? So you're at uni and it's just in the boosters or Bucks leagues.
Bucks League, yeah.
Yeah. You're able to expand on that just for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, all universities compete in the Bucks League, obviously against other unis. Some of the unis also enter the National Futsal League. So the University of Nottingham had a team in the National League which competed against clubs as well, so kind of outside of the uni sphere. And I basically, kind of worked my way up. I was in the thirds and twos and the ones. I think from that, there was a kind of England under-19s talent ID event or something like that, went along. Basically, they liked what they saw and ended up basically playing and training with the kind of development under 23s for the next couple of years. Yeah, once I finished uni, I then went and played basically for a club back in London who also compete in the National League. So the way it works at the moment is there's what's called the National Futsal Series, which is the top 8 clubs in the country, and they play home and away, and it's treated as by the players as something very professional. So we train like 2-3 nights a week, play obviously nationally on Sundays, but actually it's amateur. So people aren't really paid. It's very niche. There's hardly any money in the sport. So it's a huge time commitment.
And those teams that are in there, is that a mixture of, because I know there was a phase, and maybe I'm getting my dates wrong or mixed up, etc. I know there's a movement where a lot of, it's almost like futsal academies were created, wasn't there? Around like post-16, like sixth form equivalent. And they were tied to football clubs, right? Is that the same in the kind of national series? Is that football club, like, would you get a Premier League branded futsal team in that competition, or is it more kind of grassroots teams in there?
That's a good question. There's the top league, and then below that there's a kind of north-south split, a bit like the conferences. There's a handful of teams that are linked to universities. There are a handful that are linked to clubs. So like Chelsea have a futsal team that play. For example, York did, Cambridge do. Some are kind of more closely linked to the clubs than others, but it is definitely something that's growing quickly. I'm seeing a lot of the pro football clubs start to use futsal a lot more, even as just a development tool. So like all their academy players will do a futsal session every week. So it's good to see that it's growing, but yeah, it's a real mixed bag out there.
So now you're playing for your club. What's your club at the moment?
Bloomsbury Futsal.
So you got Bloomsbury Futsal.
Yeah, it was formerly Pro Futsal, and they've kind of merged with us, come under our banner. So yeah, both play and run Bloomsbury.
Perfect. Play manager for the team as well, or not?
No, we've thankfully not. No, we've got a manager. That's actually it's weird because you spend your whole week organising, running program sessions, and then suddenly on a Wednesday evening, I'm just turning up. I'm the participant, and
it's got to be a nice stress release, that one.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to worry about planning the session, bringing the balls, booking the court. So yeah, it's actually really, really nice to not have to think about that.
Brilliant. And last one on futsal for me. In terms of the international setup, then you're current England international, right?
Yeah. Well, so the England national team has actually been disbanded by the FA. So during COVID, they obviously had to make funding cuts, and their reasoning was essentially that, so the futsal teams fall in the same department as the England football teams. So they're kind of elite performance pathway, and they've obviously got a total pot of funding for that. And the funding for that has to be targeted at what they say are the teams which give them the best chance of winning a tournament.
Oh, yeah.
So what they've said is we're miles off from futsal. Even if we tripled the budget, we're never going to win the Euros or the World Cup. So they've actually slashed the program from the elite pathway completely. So there's no 19s, 23s or first team England futsal at all anymore. It just sits in the recreational side. So getting people participating, children playing, these sorts of things. So no, unfortunately, it doesn't exist.
And is that, and this is me being curious, so in terms of it just sitting in the recreational, is it impossible for you to put a team into the competitions when they come around, or is it kind of self-funded, or could you do it self-funded or with an external sponsor or anything like that?
They're looking at options. The problem is that in order to be the official England team, you have to get sign-off from the Football Association to take up in it. So they'd have to trust that whichever group put this together are going to kind of represent England the right way, wear the kit, all this sort of stuff. So I think a big sponsor could come in and do it.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it would be very difficult.
So maybe Bloomsbury Football could sponsor that and bankroll.
Yeah, probably a bit bigger budget than we
Oh
could
yeah,
afford. Yeah.
joking. But moving on to stuff. So university, thanks for filling us in with the futsal. And like I said, good luck with it. And hopefully that funding will come back. I know it's obviously difficult with COVID and those restrictions on an indoor sport, but see how that pans out in the next couple of years. I'm really interested in kind of your motivation to start the business. I know obviously, and it's interesting hearing how your degree would have shaped that as well. Obviously looking at the demographics and working with Fulham around South London, etc. Huge passion for football. So coming out of university, did you start work anywhere, or was it straight into business and launching Bloomsbury?
Yeah, it was really. I kind of set it up, a few months after I graduated basically. The motivation was kind of two things, and they were things that I'd seen having been working at Fulham, having seen loads of grassroots football coaching, having played myself. And they're pretty simple things, but the first one was just the quality of what was being run was really poor across the board. There's no reason why there should be flat footballs, unqualified coaches, poor pitches, poorly organised clubs where players turn up and the coach is late or like doesn't rock up or the pitch isn't booked. All these sorts of common issues that just happen across the board. That means that the experience for a teenager, child, whoever turning up is just not very good. And there isn't a reason why that should be the case. So the first main thing was to tackle that and say, look, we're going to create something here that is going to be really, really high quality and an amazing experience for children to take part in. And the second thing was that children weren't able to access regular sport because they were being priced out of it, particularly prevalent in London, but I had also seen similar instances in Nottingham. I think a lot of it stems from the lack of facilities, meaning that the price of those facilities rises and that cost is passed on to the families, but also looking at things like the price of kit, the price of a new pair of boots as kids' feet grow so quickly. It racks up, and actually it's hundreds of pounds a year per child to play.
The facilities one's an interesting one as well, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know the environment in London and in the areas you're operating in, but essentially I see it a lot where it's X amount per hour to hire the pitch, and that pitch could probably be empty if you weren't there, if you know what makes sense. So I'm guessing most of the times you're going into use a facility, if it wasn't new, that might be standing empty. I don't know if that's the case. Or
I guess in London it's probably slightly different in that actually the problem is that every pitch is completely full, and because 8 people all want the same 7 to 8 p.m. slot on an
supply and demand, right?
Yeah, they know they can charge £100 for it. So it's one, really expensive, but two, they're just not available. An adult league for people after work will book every hour for the whole week a new pitch that's been built for 10 years, and then it's gone.
What about your holiday activities then? Is that, I think I was referring a bit more to like those full bookings in the off-peak hours, obviously like you're doing holiday camps, you might be doing it all day during weekdays. What's it like with that? Is that still massive demand for those facilities during the school holidays?
It is competitive, but it's a lot easier because they're off-peak. So booking 9 a.m. to 3 p.m, obviously the school aren't there because they don't use it, and adults at work. The hardest ones are the weekday evenings, sort of 6:30 to 9. It's just a minefield out there. Yeah, there's literally 10 people per slot.
Hopefully we'll get into how we're overcoming that challenge as well. So sorry, I cut you off when you were talking about your, I guess your motivation to start and kind of that mindset at the outset, I guess, to resolve those issues that you're seeing in the community or in the industry.
Yeah, so it was creating something really, really good quality and then removing the barriers to access it, and the barrier, main one, being cost. So if we could create this program that was really, really amazing, like almost at the level of a professional club, but make sure that everyone could access it no matter their ability to pay, that was the aim, that was the vision. And that's how I kind of set out. We literally started with, I think 4 children turned up to the first training session, which was in Camden Town on a Thursday in January 2018. And honestly, just grew it out from there. From that session, they each brought a friend, had 6, had 8 younger brothers came along, mostly word of mouth.
I guess from a value proposition, it's really easy to see why it's popular, right? So you've got a high-end product and you cater in and it's open in terms of affordable. Exactly. from a business perspective, that's what I'm really interested in terms of how does that stack up in terms of because quality costs money, right? So I guess bridge that gap. And what's the model? Is it fully commercial? Have you got funding backers behind you to kind of offset that cost?
Yeah, so as an overall organization, about 65% of our revenue comes from people paying for our services. Of that, a proportion of it is from schools who pay for our coaches to go and run programs in the schools, and the rest is from families. They could be paying £10 for a session, £5, £2, 20p. It depends what they're able to afford. Those that can afford to pay, which obviously there are a lot of in London, it's incredibly diverse, actually pay slightly above and beyond the cost of their child's place in that session. So a little bit of that money helps to subsidize those who can't afford what the actual cost is of their child to take place. And then looking at the other kind of third of our overall funding, pretty typical charity funding. We're looking at grants, sponsorships, the corporate social responsibility partnerships, and donations, really. And obviously, we want to both grow the regular revenue that we get from people paying, schools paying, but also push the kind of grants and sponsorship side to allow us to do more. But yeah, that's broadly the overall picture of how we operate.
So you actually set up as a non-profit then in terms of the
we're registered CIO charity.
And in terms of those partnerships, I know you've got a few big names on board. Are you able to expand a little bit on, I guess, the relationships there? So I know you've got Nike as a really strong partner with you. How did that come about? And I guess what does the partnership look like? Because I guess most organisations are probably envious of having the industry leaders also in.
Yeah, that actually came about through what's called the Nike Partner Club scheme. So first of all, we decided to wear Nike kit, which then puts you on the radar of Nike because you're obviously buying their team wear. They then have a number of clubs across the UK that they invite to become part of what they call the Nike Partner Club scheme, which has a few kind of loose criteria, but basically if you represent Nike well, you run a great club, you have lots of teams, they're interested in you getting involved, and that has some benefits. I think the main one being that they will basically pay £100 per affiliated team to your club as a budget to spend on coaching courses. So we get a few £1,000s a year because we've got a lot of teams that we can use to basically upskill our coaches and staff, which is brilliant. Through being part of that and just having regular conversations with Nike, we were then kind of invited to be a more formal brand partner, which opened up a lot of other doors where we're able to get involved with Nike campaigns, product launches, events, help them with, for them, obviously it's a case of actually they want to sell more product at the end of the day. That's what Nike are about. But from a corporate social responsibility side as well, they're keen to activate and push sport. And if you're seen as an organization who are doing all the things that they want to do, they want to support you because it's mutually beneficial. And that's led to, all sorts of cool events, funding opportunities, and projects that we're planning to do with them in the future. So they're brilliant. The team in London are great and support a load of community partners doing all sorts of great things.
I'm going to circle back a little bit now to your recurring challenges. So we always ask our guests in terms of what are the recurring challenges that they're finding. And like you said, operationally, our industry has so many moving parts to manage. But in terms of yourself, on a day-to-day basis, what's the most challenging aspect of running Bloomsbury?
Funding, facilities, and having the expertise in all areas other than coaching.
Right. So you mean so like the business operate, you talking about like running the business as well as, because you still deliver, right? You still coaching day to day?
I'm not coaching anymore.
Right. So you've been able to step back. Right. Great. Yeah. So you've been able to step back,
which is great, and it's allowed me to focus. But yeah, I finished uni, I started this up. I've never worked in another organization. I've definitely never run another business or organization. So it's a huge amount of learning as I go along, which is great and I love it. But it means that everything takes longer and there's way more mistakes than there would be if we had someone who knew what they were doing to a greater degree than I do. So yeah, they're kind of probably the three main ones. And I guess funding is also linked to expertise. Obviously, we had a big pot of funding. We could hire more experts to help us with whether it's marketing, finance, HR, all sorts of things.
I'm just going to pick up on the facilities one there. So obviously we talked about the demand being basically unfillable at the moment in London. How do you get around that? Have you had to be a bit smart about the partnerships you've made, or is it through the links you have in schools? And also, what's your negotiation tactic on on facility costs?
It's a real mixed bag because there's so many different lettings companies, Some schools go directly, some private facilities do it themselves. So just to navigate the landscape is difficult enough. I think the first thing is putting enough time and effort into booking facilities. It's a boring job. I still do it personally because I know how important it is, that I haven't offloaded it to someone else yet. Now at a stage where we have the finance to be able to block book larger amounts of time over a longer period of time. So when we started, it was, hey, have you got 6 to 7 on a Thursday free? Can we book that? Now it's, oh, there's this new facility opening. We can take 4 hours on a Tuesday and 4 hours on a Thursday on a contract for next year, which obviously puts us in a position which is giving us an advantage kind of over organizations who can't do that. So that definitely helps. We do have a few partnerships with schools, slightly innovative. So, for example, at a particular secondary school that we use, the lettings start from, I think it's 6 or 6:30, but we will go in and coach the school football team for an hour, 3 to 4 for free, in order to then get free access to the pitch from like 4:30 to 5:30 before the lettings start. So that's an example where we've had to kind of be a bit creative with trying to get slots. But a lot of it is just keeping it to the ground, checking when new facilities are opening or when like lettings companies are changing hands.
Yeah, because I think the lettings companies has changed the game a little bit. Because I know previously you could build that relationship directly with the school. Maybe they'd be a bit more flexible.
Yeah.
With the companies coming in, great service for the school, income generator, etc. But they need to make a margin as well, right? So that I'm guessing the facility costs increase on that when they're being outsourced management.
Yeah, and then beyond our staff, facilities is the next biggest cost for the whole organisation. That we spend literally thousands a month on facilities.
I want to touch on the operation challenge you said there around kind of advice, mentoring, etc. Because I know you're part of the is it this? I think it's this year. You're currently part of the Sports Industry Next Gen program. For those for those listeners who don't know about that, are you able to expand a little bit on that and kind of the process and the support you're able to access through that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is I actually got an email yesterday saying that the 2022 application window is now open. So anyone who's looking at it or interested, do apply. It's great. I think they've been running for 5 years now. The idea of the program is basically to bring together 30 people, obviously under the age of 30, who are working in the field of sport, whether that's running a sports organization, working in sports law, sports marketing for a club, who they feel are going to be in the future leaders in the industry and make a real difference to sport in some way. And it's both a great networking opportunity to obviously meet and speak to other ambitious people of a similar age working in sport, but they also put on a range of workshops and events where they help you to improve your skills. We've had, for example, some leadership workshop around, how to manage people, how to lead, what's important, which has been really, really good. So it's a great program to apply.
Love that. And how's it been in terms of, I guess this year it's all virtual. Is it normally virtual or is it normally?
No, it's normally all in person. So they have, again, I think yesterday just announced that the second half of the year is going to be in person, which is great because, other than us going out and organising to like meet one person for lunch or meet a small group in the park, it's been impossible to have kind of a formal meetup. But hopefully, that will come over the next 6 months.
Yeah, I guess positives and negatives with that is obviously virtually you're able to meet people from all over the country quickly, and I guess essentially because the program's based out of London, right, through the sports industry.
Yeah, it's based out of London, so I'm lucky in that sense. The main office is about a 10-minute walk from us.
There you go.
So easy for me. But there's one person on the course who's based in India. So if it wasn't at least mostly virtual, they're going to be struggling.
Yeah, they'll be on the screen while everyone's together on the next meeting. Bloomsbury, next 5 to 10 years, what's your vision for the organisation? Because obviously, you've got a finger in loads of different pies in terms of from a community side, academy side, professionalism. Also, you have the clubs as well, so they're all competing every weekend, I'm assuming. And what's your kind of medium to long-term vision for company, organisation?
Yeah, so we want to obviously improve the quality of the service we provide. Being more specific, we know that we do a good job in terms of removing the barriers to access and running great football programs. The next thing we want to add is the off-pitch element, so actually building in more around life skills, employability skills, the things that we can add and improve these young people's lives that don't just come by taking part in the football session, but that we can use the power of football and the fact that they're coming along and part of the program in order to get them involved in. So that's one massive thing that we're looking at over the next 1 to seasons. The second thing is the quantity of opportunity. We definitely want to scale both in the areas that we currently are, because we're only scratching the surface, even in Camden, where most of our stuff is based, but also geographically spread and try and replicate the program across other boroughs. And then really, if I'm looking at 5 years and beyond that, it's understanding that actually there's only so much we can do as Bloomsbury, as one organisation, as one grassroots sports organisation. And actually, how can we use our platform, and how can I use the experience I've got to help bring up the whole of grassroots and help other organizations to do more, be better, potentially use our model if they see fit. So I think the kind of advocacy element and trying to set an example and like bring the whole of sport up is how we can make the biggest impact. So I see that as definitely a key aim over the next few years.
Yeah, I love that. And I know obviously you really focused on professionalism. In terms of philosophies, is that one of your main ones in terms of business philosophies you might have created or developed as you've been running the organization?
Definitely. I think it comes back to why I started it in terms of creating something that is really, really high quality. We want to not just say, oh, we're the best football club, and we actually want to show it in everything we do, so that if anyone turns up to any of our sessions, actually, yeah, the coach is in full kit. They have the right equipment, they're on time, they're really professional about how they speak to the children and parents. All these things, yeah, you have to practice what you preach.
I love this quote.
Yeah.
It's attributed to you, but I don't know, hopefully it's right. It's got it saying professionalism, in your words, would be looking like $1 million but being affordable for everyone. And I think that kind of pulls everything together. I think it's a really, really powerful message, exactly what you're saying. Just because it's a community session doesn't mean the coach should be unprofessional or not coming there to deliver the best session they can do.
Definitely.
A couple of personal questions from me. In terms of your daily routine running the organisation, you alluded to it earlier on, a lot of planning, a lot of operational duties to cover. How do you stay on top of that in terms of stress management or just being on top performance? Is it a case of futsal gets rid of all the stress, or have you got any other that you utilise?
And the first thing I'd say is I absolutely love what I do. So I'm excited to come in to work every day, which makes everything else easier, obviously. Yeah. I think also the fact that like I'm young, I don't have a family to depend on, other commitments, like it's also easier for me compared to a lot of others to put a lot more time into my work and not be compromising on other elements. So yeah, I do probably do more hours and spend more time on work than I probably should for a healthy personal life work balance. But again, I enjoy it and I'm learning and it works for me at the moment. The other thing is that my role evolves so quickly. So 6 months ago, my daily routine looked completely different from now. So for example, our whole academy program with teams in every age group, or 2 teams in every age group, 7 coaches, all this sort of stuff. I meet with the manager of that program for 45 minutes a week. And other than that, basically let them get on with it because I trust them. They're amazing people. They do a great job. Whereas 6 months ago, I'm helping them with recruitment. I might fill in for a coaching session. I might order them equipment, all these sorts of things. So as we grow, I need to understand, or I'm starting to understand, that in order to do more, I have to be able to trust good people to actually run the programs and then just check in with them. And probably in a few months, we'll get to the stage where someone else checks in with them and I check in with that person, because there's only so many management meetings I can have every week. But yeah, that is mostly my time in the day. It's coming into the office, it's chatting to people who are running the programs and helping them to get on with their jobs, supporting where they can. And then I'll probably do maybe an hour before people get in, or an hour after, to crack on with some of my own jobs.
Yeah, it's all about creating that environment for them to flourish, for sure. Last question. It's more of a reflective one. If you could give a bit of advice to someone who's starting out, someone who's leaving uni right now, what would that piece of advice be?
Probably 2. One would be, people think running your own business is flash and fun and exciting. It's double as stressful, double as much work as most other jobs. So if you're up for that, great.
You try and put them off it.
No, if you're up, that's great, but don't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to make a load of money, I'm going to get someone else to run it, I don't have to do much. I can kind of pick when I work.
Jump on the private jet and fly around.
Yeah, exactly. It's all hours work. It's incredibly stressful. It consumes your mind 24/7. So be prepared for that. And the second thing I'd say is, don't worry if you feel like you don't think you have the skills or know what you're doing at any one time. Even the top people make decisions where they're not fully clued up on what they're doing. There's always an element of intuition, of learning as you go along, of finding out things as you go along, of speaking to people for help. So yeah, do what you think's best at that time. I still haven't got a this is the milestone I'm aiming to reach. This is our clear vision and objective. It's a case of someone asked me this today. Do I think that's right? Yes, no. Is this an opportunity we want to take? Obviously, as you grow, these decisions become bigger and more important. But yeah, basically go with the flow and don't get stressed if you think, I don't know anything about this. Go and find out about it or find someone to help you who does.
Oh, Charlie, loved that. Thanks for that last insight. Really poignant for our listeners. Just want to say a big thank you for myself for giving up your time. I know you're super busy. Yeah, just a big thank you. We'll link everything in the show notes, including the futsal information. So hopefully the FA will pick that back up in the near future, and we'll see you in England shirt again soon.
Pleasure. Good to chat, James. Speak soon.
Thanks, mate. Thank you for listening to this week's show. You can subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can write to us at dryphase.podcast@coordinate.cloud, tweet us at coordinatesport, or follow us on Instagram at coordinate_sports, or on my account at James_ventures. This episode was produced by Nancy Kwamboka, with support from Claire Goodchild and Lola Small, with special thanks to Rochelle. I'm James Moore, and you've been listening to The Drive Phase from Coordinate Sports.